#1 source for election coverage and analysis.
This is Girard at Large.
Good morning, Manchester, and to those of you in the surrounding towns, this is Girard at Large, and I am your, believe it or not, awake after only 3 hours of sleep host, Rich Girard. Thanks for tuning in. Our time is... That was not a whine. That was a statement of I am good and ready to go, Mr. I dropped my microphone twice.
I need some Viagra for this microphone here. That's what it is. This thing keeps falling over here.
Oh, you're saying your mic won't stay up, Mike?
It won't. I just keep hitting it and it just falls right over. So
our time is 6:05 here on 90.7 WLMW New Hampshire Family Radio. You can find us on the web at GirardAtLarge.com. That's GirardAtLarge.com. Or you can find us on Facebook
one of those
and
shows,
Twitter.
Isn't it, Rich?
Also at Girard at Large. And speaking of Twitter, we're trying something new today. And for those of you who are following us on Twitter,
all you twits out there.
For all you twits out there, for those of you who might want to be part of our experiment, we're posting to Twitter instead of Facebook today because we're experimenting among the people that we've met while we've been down here at Radio Row. And by the way, not only have we, because we've been telling you all week, we are the only New Hampshire radio show on Radio Row. It turns out that we here at Girard at Large are, in fact, the only media broadcast outlet in New Hampshire or from New Hampshire here at the Republican National Convention. And
print, TV, or
radio.
Yeah.
And I,
we're special. And so are you, because we care about our listeners.
That's amazing to me. I mean, it's not like New Hampshire is a foregone conclusion in the election is red or blue.
Battleground state, supposedly.
So not only are you getting...
President Obama's coming, so that proves it right there.
There you go.
Hey, you know what else, Rich?
What's that?
We're the only Radio Row team using Viagra this early in the morning.
No, probably, maybe needing it.
Not that there's anything wrong with that, Dave.
Oh, absolutely not, Mike.
So like you were saying, though, part of the thing for folks who you really can't see some of the things we're saying, Google has a cafe they're sponsoring downstairs, but it also is a Google and / YouTube broadcast site where they're making YouTube videos right in front of you and posting them on YouTube. But then you go into one of the main areas there where you got everybody from the Time magazine to Japanese newspapers and everybody in between, Voice of America and everything, and Facebook and Twitter have their thing set up. And we went and saw the Twitter people, and the lady we ran into has told us all kinds of stuff, and they're giving us technical advice now, so it's kind of cool.
And strategery. That's right. So, by the way, we had to send this off to Paul Ryan, because he talked about the wasteful stimulus. We should just call it Stimu-waste.
There you go.
Stimu-waste. Yeah, he was great. We'll get to that.
That's why we're asleep, because we stayed up and went to the arena last night to see Paul Ryan live, and it was very energizing speech.
Yes, we did. And so, so here we're on Twitter. Our handle on Twitter is @GirardAtLarge. That's @GirardAtLarge. And so, what we're going to do
is the @sign and then Girard at Large all spelled out.
Yes,
remember that
@sign, then Girard @AT Large, all spelled out. So what we're going to do is we're going to tweet, as because normally we put up Facebook posts and we've got our Facebook and Twitter pages linked. So normally we tweet, normally we post to Facebook and it gets tweeted out. Well, we're going to try tweeting on Twitter, which we'll post to our Facebook page. And we'd like you, if you're following us on Twitter, and if you aren't, we'd like you to follow us on Twitter. We're going to post stuff, like we do on Facebook, but we're going to throw up a question or two and ask for your feedback. Or ask you to post your questions that you might have for our upcoming list of guests, which is just enormous today, so that we can have a different interactive experience with you, our listeners. So it's twitter.com if you're not a Twitter user. Get there. It's pretty easy to set up an account. If you are a Twitter user, again, our handle is @sign Girard at Large. And @ is spelled out in @ large.
And we have to mention also the people. We talked to the people with Twitter. They're right here at the RNC convention, and they are using our listeners in New Hampshire as a test group to find out how the interaction between Twitter and radio broadcasts or radio listening audiences can be used. So you're actually on the only radio audience in America that is being used in this manner, that are using us to test this out to see if this is going to be a complimentary thing, so that you can send us ideas for stories. You can send us a question to whoever we're interviewing. Say, hey, ask her this or ask him this. And they're also measuring your responses. They want to find out what's going on with you guys. So they're keeping track of it from a standpoint to tell us kind of activity. So you're getting to help out the whole Twitter sphere. I think is that what they call it, Twitter sphere?
I don't know.
So our listeners have been chosen to do that. It's kind of cool.
Right. So Erica America, that's her handle. If you want to follow her, are we following Erica America, by the way? So Erica America, who is the nice young lady that we met here.
She's all meet people who are so much smarter than you about something.
I know, isn't that great?
Talking, I'm like,
but
okay,
she was very helpful.
Oh, yeah.
She was very interested, and she said, "So you guys willing to experiment?" I said, "Sure." Of course, not knowing what that could get, what exactly.
I wasn't even going to say that.
What do you have in mind? But joining us now is Christopher Duffley. He is our Manchester singer. How would you classify Christopher Duffley? What would you?
He's a singular talent.
A singular talent. That is so true. He crisscrosses our country, performing for any variety of different groups, organizations on any number of reasons and causes. He's an 11-year-old boy who.
Hey, Rich. I'll tell you how I would describe him.
How would you describe him?
He's a superstar.
Super talented. Superstar.
His YouTube, Godvine, and GodTube videos, millions and millions of hits from around the world. He has inspired many, and he has shared his talent with us this week. Decaf, please. He has shared his talent with us this week as he has performed some of his favorite patriotic tunes as we start off each day. Good morning, Christopher.
Good morning, Rich. How are you doing today?
Fine, thank you. How are you?
Actually, you know what? I sound so much more awake than the other 3 days.
You sound like it's like mid-morning for you, and you're just chomping at the bit and ready to go. Did you get up at 4:30 today?
Actually, hold on a second, 5:20 I did.
5:20. Well, you're better than we are. We got up at 3:30, and we certainly sound like we got up at 3:30, don't we?
Did you guys warm up your voices before you started?
No, not really. That's it. You ever notice, Christopher, that my voice actually gets better as the show goes along every morning?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, so I kind of, one of the things I think is unique about what I do with this show is between 6 and 6:30 especially, and between 6 and 7 generally, I kind of am waking up with the audience unless there's something that's really got me all fired up. Like what you're going to do for us this morning, which is Thank You Soldiers, right?
Yes, how did you know?
All right. Christopher Duffley performing Thank You Soldiers. Here you go, bud.
Well, it's like music in the background.
Oh, okay.
When I lay my head down every night and go to sleep in peace, I can stay there knowing all is well while you're standing on your feet, keeping watch, protecting shore to shore, and the oceans too, defending freedom at all cost for the red, white, and the blue. Thank you, oh thank you, men and women, brave and strong, to those who served so gallantly. We sing this grateful song to the soldiers who have traveled on to countries far and near. In peace and war you paid the price for the cause you hold so dear, that we may wake each morning bright and know that freedom reigns. sacrifice, your country joins to sing. Thank you, oh thank you, men and women, brave and strong. To those who serve so gallantly, we sing this grateful song. Thank you, oh thank you, men and women, brave and strong. To those who serve so gallantly, we sing this grateful song.
Christopher Duffley, ladies and gentlemen. Christopher, what do you like about this song that you just sang for us?
Oh, well, the thing I like the song
Black.
is it's because we're very thankful to serve our country.
Yeah, we
And
wouldn't
our
have much of a
focus-
country if we didn't have people volunteering to serve it that way, would we?
No, we would not.
You know, we've done a couple stories during this week. We've met some very interesting people who have who lead veterans organizations. Did you have a chance to hear any of those interviews, Christopher?
Oh, no, just a little bit. I couldn't hear a lot. Every day you guys delete the archives, and that's not good for the thing, because you guys always delete the archives away, and it's not good for me, because.
Oh no, we don't delete the archives, Christopher. We just put new ones on the home page as they get posted, but we have a complete archive page of every show that we've done, including all of your interviews, and you can get to you have your mom show you where the archive page is, and then you can find them from there.
Oh yeah, that's great. Yeah, and
Did we lose him?
Yeah, I think we lost the call. I don't know what happened.
All right, well, he'll probably call back. Draw Large time is 6:17. This segment brought to us by our friend Ovid Lamontagne. He's running for governor, this Manchester native who has contributed significant amounts of his time, effort, and energy to various community and governmental community causes and governmental positions. He is also a lawyer in town and owner of the Divine Millamette and Branch firm here in Manchester, one of our state's largest. Ovid's platform can be found at ovid2012.com. That's OVIDE, ovid2012.com. And we are live from the Convention Center in Tampa. Sorry, I had to wave you off there, Mike, but I forgot to tell you, Dave and I are doing this 5-second thing on the music because he's having trouble hearing us talk when the music's playing, and so we got to let it run for 5 seconds, and then he turns the music down so he can hear us.
I think that's the theme song for the show today, After Midnight by Eric Clapton.
It's about time when we got in bed. I was just going to say how nice it is when I hear Al doing his outro there, and he's identifying himself as a TV, WBIN TV meteorologist. That's cool. We're very, very proud of him. It's awesome to have him on TV again.
It is. And we have a busy, busy show. We want to thank, I guess we lost Christopher Duffley's call. We want to thank Christopher for calling in, not only this morning, but for the entire week. And if you'd like to learn more about Christopher, I believe it's Duffley.com, but on our website at GirardAtLarge.com, if you do a search for his name, and you have to be I think you have to be a member to search. There's no fee to be a member, by the way, and there are all sorts of benefits to doing it, like advance notice of our deal of the day and other special offers that we put together. We're developing, we're working on putting together a newsletter on a periodic basis, which will be sent to our members about various things that are happening. So get in early, but if you search for Christopher's name, you'll see the interviews that we've done with him and the performances he's done for us. We have a terrific video of an interview that he and his dad did with us in our super secret broadcast location in scenic Pinardville, and you can watch that video. It's just a great joy. And joining us at 6:30 will be Lisa Wexler of the Lisa Wexler Radio Show out in Westchester County, New York. She is the lady that your ever humble host told you about a little discussion, shall we say, about the so-called right to choose. And she'll be joining us this morning. I did a stint on her show, and her listeners loved it, she tells me. She got a lot of great feedback about the back and forth that we had on the issue. And so we invite you to stay tuned about it. She's a very nice lady, by the way, very open to discussion. She's not mean or nasty or anything. She's just got different ideas. But
unlike us.
She's willing to entertain the talk.
I think she said her father was listening, and he even said it was one of the best shows you've done in a while.
Yeah. So
that's awesome.
I take that as high praise.
And it's a totally different audience. Westchester County, there's a bedroom community for Manhattan, so a little bit different type of listener there. So it's kind of neat to talk to different audiences. That's kind of
mixing
cool.
up. Senator David Booten from Hooksett will be joining us this morning. We are having Representative Ken Hawkins back in. We broke the story, boys and girls. Get to my blog at girardatlarge.com. Mike mentioned some of what was there. There was a complaint filed against the Hawkins campaign for alleged push polling. We'll be talking to Ken about that this morning. Chuck Rolachek's campaign will be on the radar this morning. He's running for the Executive Council. The Speaker, no, not Newt Gingrich, who I did get to interview yesterday, by the way. We have the clip, and we'll be sharing that with you hopefully tomorrow or certainly next week as we download a lot of the audio that we've gotten from other places. But Speaker Bill O'Brien, who supported Speaker Gingrich for president in New Hampshire, Speaker O'Brien will be with us this morning. You're going to meet a lady named Rebecca Kiesling. Rebecca is a right-to-life activist. Why? Because of the, shall I say, tragic circumstances that led to her conception and almost led to her abortion, but didn't. Very fascinating story. So Rebecca will be joining us this morning. We'll be hearing from Jane Aitken. She's a Tea Partier in the state of New Hampshire, located in Bedford. She's calling in this morning on behalf of Rick Parent, who's running for Congress. We're going to learn about, we think we have Victoria Jackson from Saturday Night Live. She said she'd be by this morning. That would be fun. And we're going to talk about compressed natural gas. Did you know that you can actually buy the stuff in the state of New Hampshire? And without affecting your gas mileage, it could radically reduce what you pay for gasoline. And then we also have scheduled Christine I Am Not a Witch O'Donnell from Delaware. She lost the Senate race in 2010, but she's back at it. She's running for Congress in Delaware, and we'll be hearing from her. So that ought to be an awful lot of fun.
We had more celebrity sightings yesterday.
Oh, yes.
We had Governor Rick Perry from Texas was here.
I missed Perry.
He was right on the other side of our curtain here.
I missed Perry. I wonder if that's when I was interviewing Newt. What time was it?
Yes, it was right about that time.
All right. So that's why
and then actor Stephen Baldwin, who is the brother of Alec Baldwin, so he's the smart one in the Baldwin family.
You know, if you're the parents there, do you say we dropped Alec on his head or what?
I believe the Baldwin family, the parents are quite liberal. They're out from Long Island, New York.
So Stephen was one who got dropped on the head as far as they're concerned.
Stephen's the black sheep of the family there. But, of course, many of you remember him. His most famous role is in The Usual Suspects. So he was here. He has a radio show, too. That's the thing. We find out all these people have radio shows. Chuck Woolery had a radio show. I had no idea.
He has a whole radio network.
Yeah. Yeah, the Chuck Woolery Radio Network.
And you know what? He sounds great on radio.
Yeah, well, it's Chuck Woolery.
I mean, what a great voice he's got, yeah.
I'd like to buy a vowel, Chuck. But he knows Vanna White. So
I was going to say, forget the vowel. Where's Vanna?
That's right. But it's pretty cool. We've gotten to see tons of people. We got to meet a person in our next broadcast area here is from WINS in 1010 Winds in New York City. And we got to talk to them, and it's kind of comparing notes with colleagues. It's really cool. Cool here.
And we've met a really good guy who we've shared our radio row booth with, Willie Lawson. And he's a fascinating fellow. He's a black American. I just cannot bring myself to say African American. I just can't do it. And it probably has something to do with the fact that I know black folk who did not, who come from various places other than Africa, and aren't native to America, to the United States, I should say. But anyway, and he has a very interesting take on politics and what ails the black community here. And you know what the nice part about this? We've made some really good connections and friends down here, whether we agree with their politics or not. And we think that we're going to be able to add a pretty nice wrinkle or two to the Girard at Large show by checking in with friends we now have in Westchester County, New York. And here in Tampa Bay, Florida,
Alaska.
up in Alaska, Anchorage, Alaska. So, I think we're going to have some fun, working these connections, for lack of a better term, and develop some really good relationships, and bring our listeners some interesting perspectives on issues around the country. Because, our focus is local. Obviously, it's not going to change. It's always nice when you can tap into people who also have a local focus in their areas and see how this all kind of comes together. What we're facing in Manchester, right? You get some guy running around there calling the fire department on the schools because he's upset. Just happens to be one of the folks who wanted to spend another $12 million on the schools, trying to make a point, Jim O'Connell. You think Manchester's the only school district dealing with this stuff? By the way, if you get to our poll at girardatlarge.com, we ask you, what's the answer to what's happening in education? Is it more or less federal involvement, more or less state involvement? We also asked you, who's to blame for the fact that there are classrooms in Manchester right now, they got 40 kids? Is it the school board for their past poor decisions on policy and the use of one-time funds? Is it the teachers? Let's be honest. The teachers could have done what the cops and firemen, the highway guys, and everybody else did. They could have made the concessions. Would have saved $4.5 million. How many teachers does $4.5 million buy? That's almost 100 of them, folks.
So you wouldn't have a math class possibly being taught in the cafeteria at Hillside.
That's right. Is it the mayor and or the alderman for the fact that they wouldn't override the tax cap? Are the people of Manchester just cheapskates?
I got a boatload of Facebook posts. That's where we came across that story in the first place about the Hillside incident, because Hillside's in my ward that I represent, at Ward 2 on the east side of Manchester, and one of my constituents whose daughter goes there.
I can see Hillside from my house.
Okay, Sarah. And you can see it from your house, actually. And one of my constituents, her daughter is a 8th grader there, and she was posting and saying, this is ridiculous. This is the mayor's fault. We have kids that are possibly going to have to be taught math in the cafeteria and blah, blah. I'm just glad they're being taught math. I don't care where it's at. They can teach them outside in the playground for all I care, as long as they're learning math. And, is it great to have 42 kids in a smaller class? No. Or is it going to kill you? No. Have you ever stood in line at the grocery store? Have you ever been in a crowded area you really didn't want to be? Yeah. You know what? That's life. And it is also the economic reality of Manchester, New Hampshire. You want to complain about it? Go to your teachers and ask them what the union did and what the union could have done, like Rich just said. And playing on that, last night's speech by Paul Ryan, there is a definitive message that government is going to get a lot smaller from the federal standpoint. You were talking about,
it has to.
Yeah, it is going to, because it has to. So there are competing ideas out there, and there's going to be a strong debate here over the next couple months leading up to the election. What's the federal government's role? How big should it be? How small should it be? And how does that impact us in Manchester? Because we get money from the federal government for education. So one of
the interesting things about the Republican convention here is there's a clock.
Oh, man.
There are two clocks. There's the national debt clock, which is going to, I think, break 16 trillion while we're here. Yeah, and then there's the debt. Then there's the national debt added since the convention started Monday at 2. Last night, while we were in the House, it went over $6 billion. So since Monday at 2 o'clock till about, we'll call it 10 o'clock last night, $6 billion was added to the national debt.
Well, you want to know something that's even scarier than that, folks? We went into the arena in the middle of the day. We got some lunch over there, and Steve and Rich and I are sitting in the stands, eating our sandwiches and just kind of people watching and looking out there. And we can see the debt clock since the convention started. And while we were eating our sandwiches, while I was drinking my Diet Coke, in the time it took me to drink a Diet Coke, the federal government spent more money in the time it took me to drink a Coke than the state of New Hampshire spends in 2 years to run our entire government for 2 years while I drank a Diet Coke. That's how fast we're spending money. $10 billion while I drank a Coke.
Chart large time is 6:30. This segment was brought to us by Ken Hawkins. He's running for the state Senate in District 9, which in our listening area includes the towns of Bedford, New Boston, Mount Vernon, Lyndborough, and whatever's just to the west of that. I always forget, and I should probably look it up. You can learn more about Ken's campaign at KenHawkinsForSenate.com. That's KenHawkinsForSenate.com. Well, our time is 6:33. We are joined now by Lisa Wexler. It's an afternoon drive from 4 to 6. Lisa, what's the station you're broadcast on? For some reason, I cannot find it on your website.
Oh, that's good to know. I probably should change it. It's WFAS, Franklin A. Sam, WFAS.
Okay. WFAN?
S is in Sam.
Oh, okay. WS.
Yeah.
All right.
FAS, fast. It's hard to hear the F's and the S's.
Indeed. So Lisa, I've shared with my audience some of the conversation that you and I have had over this so-called right to choose that you believe women have, and you have a very interesting article on your website called "Your Wallet or Your Womb."
Yes, it's something I wrote last week for the Huffington Post.
Yeah, I'm going to give you the opportunity to sort of use that as a vehicle for you to share your thoughts on this issue with our listeners.
Sure. Well, the way I look at it is, and of course I'm taking an exaggerated view in the sense. Well, this is the way I look at it. I think the Democrats are all about wanting your wallet, and I think the Republicans are all about wanting your womb. And I think because of what happened in the last, I'd say through this primary season, issues that have maybe been percolating really rose to the surface. Rick Santorum's candidacy, which energized his section of the base, the pro-life movement that nationwide has really gotten a lot of attention and a lot, frankly, of progress in terms of their agenda of creating obstacles for women to get abortions, making them have to have ultrasounds that they have to pay for, requiring them to have to hear a heartbeat, requiring doctors to have to sign off if these procedures have been done. All of these impediments to the rights that were given under Roe v. Wade happened in the last couple of years. And it seems that this year the eyes of the country are on this agenda in a way that they haven't been in a long time. Now, the Democratic Party, it seems to me, and of course some people might think it's a gross generalization, but they're all about give me your money. Give me your money, give me your money, give me your money. I'd like to have some more taxes. I'd like to spend some more money. And that, I think, is a way to address our nation's ills. Whether you agree with it or not, it seems to me that the Democratic Party has its hand out a lot. And that's part of the problem. It's part of the reason we're in the state that we're in. On the other hand, the Republican Party, which says that it's not about your wallet and it wants to leave your money alone, is about your womb, at least mine, and it wants to control what I do with it. So I thought that this conversation and this election for women who are looking at these issues became largely about which do you want to give up, your wallet or your womb?
Now, Lisa, I want to take off specifically on this idea that Republicans are interested in your womb and want to control it. Let me put it to you this way. Why do you look at it as Republicans wanting to control your womb rather than Republicans wanting to protect the life that was, through no fault of its own, created in that womb?
Rich, how many times have you been pregnant?
Well, I've been through 5 pregnancies, and I'm looking pretty good for a guy who's been through them. But
Rich, no, how many times have you been pregnant?
I've not been pregnant, but why, I don't know why that's relevant to the question of whether or not what's in the womb is worthy of the protection of law.
No, it's totally relevant. It's completely relevant because I really don't think that any man, can understand the decision that is confronted by a woman when it comes to wanting to terminate a pregnancy that she did not want to have. I really do. I don't think it's your business, as President Obama said last week, but I don't think it's something that you can really relate to on the physical and emotional level.
Well, Lisa, let me stop you there to ask you a question.
Sure.
Does that mean because I've never been in the military or I've never been in combat, does that mean that I'm not allowed to have an opinion on whether or not a specific tactic or foreign policy or anything is a valid one, an exercise we should go through?
I think
Did we lose her?
We did. We lost the call.
Oh. Well, hopefully she'll call back.
I hope so. That was getting good.
Well, I mean, and do I need to have been pregnant to believe that the baby in her womb or in any woman's womb is an independent, or I should say individual life? And even if it's not independent, even if it has to rely on the mother, in the womb for its survival. I mean, I've never breastfed, but I know if my kids aren't fed, they're going to die. I mean, what human infant is capable of taking care of itself for what? When can they figure out to go to the refrigerator and get stuff themselves? I think it's an interesting question. Hopefully, Lisa will call back because she's an afternoon show host, and her show doesn't go on the air until 4:00. So we morning warriors, it's a bit tough for the afternoon folks to get in here early.
Hey, Rich.
Yeah,
Lisa's back.
We got her back. All right, Lisa, go ahead.
I have no idea what happened. The gods cut us off. Anyway, no, Rich, of course you're allowed to have an opinion. Everyone's allowed to have an opinion about everything, but your opinion about military affairs and my opinion, frankly, about military affairs does not have as much weight as somebody who served in the armed forces. Cannot carry as much weight as somebody who's been there, done that.
Well, let me ask you this. Why do I need to be a woman to have an opinion over whether or not the child in the womb is a life that started at conception and is worthy of the constitutional protections and the right to life that every individual in this country is entitled to?
Well, I think you can have an opinion. I don't think your opinion carries as much weight as a woman's opinion. And I think with respect to that opinion, it doesn't come from a place of true emotional understanding of what a woman goes through. And why is it that the Republican Party is obsessed with this when we are saying as a country, you don't want to have an abortion? You don't have to have an abortion. This is not China. We are not taking babies out of the wombs of mothers who do not want them there. And we don't allow third trimesters unless it's for the life of the mother. That's the law. The law says that in the first trimester, when that womb is inextricably tied to the mother altogether for its nutrition, for its feeding, for its health, for its exercise, then a woman has a right to choose to terminate a pregnancy. I want to give women, I want to protect that right of women, because to criminalize it and the march to federally criminalize this, which is exactly what the Republican platform does, is an assault against women. It is disrespectful towards women. It is the wrong approach. You want to go into a church or a synagogue or a mosque and you want to preach that women should not have abortions because you don't think it's moral, that's fine. That's this country. That's free speech. Stay out of the legal arena.
Well, once upon a time, it was legal, sanctioned by the Supreme Court, to own slaves, too. But the moral outcry over the disequal treatment of people for nothing other than the differences in the color of their skin was ultimately found to be an untenable situation. So I guess you're making the viability argument here, Lisa, and I would only ask you, if you're making the viability argument, you must believe that the life in the womb is, in fact, an unborn child. No?
I believe, look, unlike people who don't believe in science, I am not a moron. Unlike those who go around with climate change with their heads up their tuchuses, I actually believe science. I have no doubt that a reproducing cell in a womb of a mother is a baby in development, of course. I'm not going to pretend that it's a massive undefined tissue that at some point doesn't become a human being, because I'm not a moron. But I understand far more, frankly, than any man walking on this earth will ever understand, that this issue is very simple. It's not complicated. In an early part of a pregnancy, a mother should have a right to decide what to do with her body. A woman should have a right to decide what to do with her body. It is still her body. If she's been assaulted, if she's been raped, if she has an emotional trauma which would prevent her or totally incapacitate her in terms of having that child and the consequences, I want to err on the side of the mother and her doctor and her husband or her lover deciding what to do.
Now, Lisa, if it is an individual life, and you've said that it's a developing baby. So if it's a developing baby and it's an individual life, how is it that the mother, if she decides to have an abortion, is not deciding what to do with that individual life, that developing baby? Why is it have anything to do with the woman's body? And in answering that, I want you as a mother to let me know, at what point was your child or children, at what point did they become not completely dependent on their mother for their very ability to live inside or outside the womb?
Okay. the viability and the outside and the inside of the womb are issues that are decided every single day in the scientific community. You know it and I know it. There are preemie babies that are surviving as early as 28 weeks, I believe. That's probably the outside because the lung capacity is what it is. This entire, situation, this entire issue is so left better to women and to the decisions that they need to make for their lives going forward. Let me ask you something, Rich. We've got over 2 million people in jail right now. We do. And we have them for everything from murder to low-level marijuana offenses all over this country. Do you really want to see women have to retreat to back-alley abortions again because they're going to do what they have wanted to do since biblical times and not have medical individuals who understand how to help them through this process? Is that what you want to see happen in this country again? Do you really want to see women prosecuted and go to jail for murder because they have an unintended pregnancy, which, by the way, it takes two, and the father always gets off scot-free? I don't see any criminal charges trying to be leveled against fathers for unintentionally impregnating a woman. Do you? Is that the society that you really want us to be? Don't you think we have other problems? You want to talk about fiscal debt. You want to talk about the war in Afghanistan.
Would you like me to answer your question?
Sure.
Okay. Well, first of all, I in answering your question, the whole back alley abortion thing, I think statistically we all know that whole back alley abortion thing was never the runaway train wreck. And it never had the numbers that the pro
I don't agree with that. That's not true.
But that aside,
that's not true.
That aside, Lisa, I noticed that you didn't answer the question about whether or not it was the question about whether or not the woman was making a decision about the baby's body rather instead of hers.
She's making a decision about her body, but her body and a developing baby are together. They are combined, and
this body and my infant daughter's body are together whenever my wife breastfeeds her. Does that give my wife?
No, it's not the same, and you know it's not the same. Please don't split hairs with me.
Who speaks
you
for
know it's not the same. I'm not arguing for infanticide. I'm not arguing for killing a baby. Okay, I'm not. You think I am. You want to twist my words that way, and you know that that's not true. You know it's not true. And this obsession with the Republican Party about this and trying to create these impediments and obstacles so that women have to rethink and think, and then all of a sudden it's too late and incur costs that they shouldn't have to incur. It's their decision. It's their body. I don't see you or anybody in the Republican Party saying, once that baby is born, we're going to take care of it if you didn't want it. We're going to make sure it's fed and it's clothed and it's adopted by a loving family. No, this is the party about birth. This isn't the party about life. Get off the subject. Get off it.
Gerard Large time is 6:45. This segment being brought to us by Chuck Rolacek. He's running for the Executive Council in District 4. To learn more about Chuck, his 35 years of business experience and why he believes it will be helpful if elected to the Executive Council, visit chuckrolaceknh.com. That's Chuck Rolacek, ROLECEK. ROLECEKNH, chuckrolaceknh.com. Our large time is 6:48. We continue now with Lisa Wexler. She's the host of the Lisa Wexler Show, based out of Westchester County, New York. And Lisa, you have to give those call letters again.
Sure, WS as in Frank, AS as in Sam, and you can hear the shows every day live streamed on LisaWexler.com if you want to follow me on Twitter at Lisa Wexler. But every day we live stream, and in fact, we do video stream. Rich, do you do that? We do a Ustream video where people can watch the show at the same time that they're listening. It's really fun, and then the audience engages and chats in their own way as the show is going on, Ustream.com. You might want to do it if you're not already live video streaming. It's a lot of fun.
Well, I thank you for that. We've actually kicked that around and have not, though, pulled the trigger on it. Hold on.
It's really fun. It's really fun to do. I think your audience would love watching while they're listening. It's really cool.
Excellent. Well, thanks for the thought. All right. So, Lisa, you keep saying that the Republicans have an obsession with this, but I'm reminded of the fact that it was, in fact, the Obama administration when it decided to issue regulations requiring the Catholic Church, among others, to provide contraceptive, including abortion services, through their health insurance plans.
No, they never required abortion. No, they never required abortion.
Wait. Hold on a second. I do recall that this latest war on women was started by the Obama administration and the promulgation of those rules. So
the rules, but they weren't abortion.
The Republicans
they were
are obsessed with this.
Though. It was not abortion. It was contraception.
Well, it did require also that abortion be paid for.
No, it did not. It never required. We haven't done that since the Hyde Amendment. No way. No way.
You're saying that Obamacare does not require that abortion be paid for?
No, it does not. Has not done that since the Hyde Amendment was passed. To my knowledge, no. That's never been up on the legislative agenda. That battle was fought, lost, however you want to look at it, a long time ago.
No, actually, I think you might be wrong on that one. But nonetheless, because of all of the Democrats that have come out, the conservatives like what's her name in Pennsylvania, who said, well, if I had known that it was going to pay for abortion, I never would have voted for it. But that's nonetheless. This Republican supposed obsession, is it not this whole war on women? Was it not started because Republicans said, well, wait a minute, those rules requiring the Catholic Church and other religious organizations to force them to provide things that violate their religious beliefs? Why is it that isn't? Why aren't the Democrats obsessed by this?
This is the knotty issue that happens when government gets so involved with the private sector that we start having to micromanage the decisions they make. I understand what the Obama administration was saying. What they were saying was, look, the Catholic Church, among others, is an employer of many thousands of people. Some of them are Catholic, some of them are not. And because Obamacare, because we have created the strangulation of employers that requires them, that mandates them to cover their employees, all of a sudden now, we as a country are deciding what benefits should and should not be offered. We never had this conversation before because the government never got that involved with businesses before. If you're going to ask me on the subject, do I think it's right and proper that employers carry the birth control pill? Of course I do. I have polycystic ovary disease. It's been prescribed for that for years. There are a lot of hormonal changes as well as contraceptive uses for the birth control pill, and every single educated person knows that. And many doctors prescribe it to many women, not just for contraceptive reasons, and women should not have to jump through hurdles in order to get anything that is prescribed by their doctors.
But the woman does not have to work for a religious organization that won't provide benefits she wants. She can work somewhere else.
Well, anybody can do anything else. In the economy like this, you know it as I know it, Rich. People are lucky to get any job that they can.
Oh, please, spare me the economy like this. Look, the fact of the matter is that the Catholic Church and anybody else, frankly, matter has a constitutional right to the free exercise of religion. And where does the constitutional right that protects that free exercise where does it say that we can override that based on an opinion poll or a tough economy or a government that thinks that every employer should do this, that, or the other thing for whatever employees it wants to hire? Where is the constitutional basis for that?
If we are going to talk about Obamacare and the and what has happened here, I have come out on my show. I've been against Obamacare from the beginning, Rich. I'm sorry, you and I are on the same side on this. I think it was an unconstitutional invasion. I think it should have been found unconstitutional under the Interstate Commerce Clause. I think that Judge Roberts' decision and the 193 pages, including the dissent, which I read, was an abomination in terms of trying to find a result and creating law in order to find a result. You don't have to get me started on Obamacare. It's a mess from start to finish. It's a complete public policy mess. Period, end. And it's created more problems than it's solved for this country and for individuals. And if you ask me my opinion, I think that's the single overriding factor in our stalled economy, because the businesses that I know didn't hire because they were waiting for the outcome of this decision. And now they have to make a decision. Am I going to pay $2,000 a year as a penalty to not carry, or am I going to pay the increased 30% premium to carry? Now what am I going to do? You know what I think I'll do? I think I won't hire for a year or so, and I'll see what happens. I think that the uncertainty caused by Obamacare is the single biggest factor in the stalling economy. Mess, start to finish. Obama's biggest blunder.
Now, Lisa, to bring it back to the conversation we started on, we started our show this morning with a young man named Christopher Duffley. He was born to a crack-addicted mother. He is blind and he is autistic, but he is an amazing musical talent who has performed for tens of thousands of people across the country. His YouTube videos have literally received millions of hits. And coming up later on the show is a woman named Rebecca Kiesling, who is a right-to-life advocate whose mother conceived her in a rather unfortunate circumstance, one we would both agree is tragic. And she was almost a victim of one of what she calls those back alley abortions, and said her mother didn't ultimately go through with it because it was against the law. What do you say to people like Christopher who, in that situation, a woman might choose to abort him because of the conditions under which he was conceived or the disabilities he have if we're born? And what do you say to people like Rebecca Kiesling who say, I'm glad I had the right to live back then. I wouldn't be here but for that. What do you say to them as... you want to
know? You want to know what I say? Here's what I say. I say, first of all, it's a cheap shot to interview adopted people and say to them, otherwise your life might not be here. Of course, everybody who's alive wants to be alive. So I think it's a cheap shot, and it's an end run around a more important conversation about a woman and the destiny and her biology and her destiny. Nonetheless, and that's what I think. I think it's a cheap shot. I also think, of course.
Well, wait a minute now. Why is it a cheap shot? You admit that it's a developing baby in a womb, an individual life. Why is it a cheap shot to ask what you'd say to one that actually lived to tell the story?
Life. You use the word individual as an individuated life. I didn't say. I said it was a completely dependent mass of developing baby cells in a
say it was an independent
womb.
life. I said it was an individual one. You said it was a developing baby.
I don't think it's individual. I think the word individual is a separate human being. People are not individuals until they're born. Sorry, I won't use that word.
So you're okay with late-term abortion?
I think that word is another euphemistic attempt to get at a result. No, I would not use that word.
Well, I'm a radio talk show host. That's my job.
Yes, of course it is. Mine too, honey. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So if it's not an individual till it's born, how does that fit with your viability argument?
Well, that's exactly the viability argument, Rich. That is the viability argument. What do you mean? Of course, that's how Justice Blackmun got to his conclusion in Roe v. Wade, because it isn't an individual life until it's a life.
Can we at least agree, as many pro-choice advocates agree, that Roe v. Wade was poorly written, was written law and badly written?
No, I don't think so. I read it back in 1973. I mean, I didn't read it in 1973.
I read
it in
law school. I'm still trying to figure out where there's actually a constitutional right to privacy in this country. I mean, other than under the Fourth Amendment for illegal, needing a warrant for searches and seizures.
Wow, that's shocking.
What's that?
Shocking to me. It's shocking to me that a Republican, or that frankly any American, would not believe in the right to privacy. I think it wasn't written down because it was so obviously a part of society that the founders didn't think they needed to write it down. Everybody has a right to privacy. Don't you think that?
When it comes to searches and seizures, I agree, but I'm not sure how the right to privacy is protects. Why doesn't the right to life trump the right to privacy?
Well, let me ask you this: do you believe
right to life is in the Declaration of Independence? We have a right to it, right? According to our founders.
Well, let me ask you this, Rich. I don't know how you're doing our time, but do you believe that
a state?
Okay. Do you think that a state has the right to make contraception between married people illegal?
Do I think the state has a right to make I don't think the state has a right to make. Well, does the state? You asking me a technical question? Does it have the right to do it?
No. We know that technically they no longer do because of Groton v. Connecticut in 1965, which was the predecessor for Roe v. Wade, because it was the first Supreme Court decision that recognized the right to privacy between a married couple. And it said, you're out of line, state. You may have an interest in procreation, be fruitful and multiply. I'm sorry. The interest of a married couple and their privacy and their birth control is not your business.
I understand that, but I don't think that necessarily means that a woman gains the right to terminate an individual life in the womb. But, Lisa, we are flat out of time. I'll give you like 15 seconds for the last word.
Well, the last word is, Rich, it's been very nice meeting you here at the Republican Convention. And I appreciate this ability and this opportunity to come back to you on something that is incredibly important to me and to the women and men that I know. And I thank you for that.
Well, Lisa, we look forward to staying in touch with you. Lisa Wexler of The Lisa Wexler Show. To learn more or to stream her live, go to Lisa Wexler, that's WEXLER, LisaWexler.com.